Good day to all of you to tuning in Awaken and Ascend today. You may be surprised to discover that Ho'oponopono is not the practice of forgiveness that is commonly known today. Our guest, coming from Sedona, Arizona at the moment, has been given the sacred responsibility of sharing a much deeper, more meaningful understanding that's been given to him by his ancestors, the Kupuna. I'm Jennifer Regular, your host, and thrilled to welcome our guest, James Kawainui, who, like many of us, believe the more we understand who we are and why we're here, especially in these turbulent and changing times, the more we help accelerate the shift in human consciousness. So glad you are here, James. Thank you so much for your presence.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And for those who know you, you're a healer, an author, a thought leader whose work actually bridges the ancient lineage and modern transformation. And I love how you blend neuroscience informed methods with indigenous teachings, guiding people to repattern the generational behaviors, to overcome trauma, and actually live in harmony with their true nature. I'm curious what inspired you on your path.
Well, that sounds like a lot, doesn't
It
it?
does. Yeah, it's a big sacred responsibility you've taken on here and dedicated
And
to. And so what inspired you on this path?
and it's true about the responsibility. For most of my life, tried my best to ignore all of that.
Mm.
And I tell people as I'm when I tell my story is that I would say I lived a regular life till about
Mm.
25 years ago. And I had a family and I got married and raised my daughters and I was working for a company which I had ended up working for almost 17 years. And I worked from the bottom, literally from the base job that you could have into a very senior management position. And I had something that happened one night that actually it changed everything. And I came home from work, and for me back then, 60-hour weeks, I would consider that a good week because that
Right.
was where I got the weekend off, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I came home and it was Friday evening, and I knew I had to go to work the next day. And I was sitting in the living room with my wife, and we were just kind of, I don't even know what was on TV, but I was just in front of the television, let's just say it that way. And I had a hand hit me in the back of the head. And I heard a voice that said, "It's time to go home." And I turned around and looked, and I was sitting on the sofa, and there was a wall behind me. So there was nobody back there. But I felt the hand and I heard the voice. And I turned to my wife. She's my ex-wife now, but I turned to my wife and I said, "What the F are we doing here?" And she said, "I don't know. This is your idea." And I said, "I think I'm done." And in that moment, it was almost as if my whole world fell apart and then
Yeah.
came back together again in a different way. And I got up and I went and called my sister in Hawaii and I asked her who was living at the beach house. And she said, nobody. And I told her, I said, "I think I'm coming home." And she said, "Great, about damn time," is what she said to me. And I literally walked into my boss's office the next day. He was a president of our division. There was about 400 employees in our facility. And I looked at him and I said, I can't do this anymore. I quit.
Mm.
And I walked away from everything. So it took me about 3 months to sell the things that I had and wait for a replacement to come in and train them. And I left and I went back to Hawaii. And I literally lived in a tin shack on the beach for 4 years with no electricity and no running water. And what I did was let go of everything that I thought I knew about my life. And that was 25 years ago.
Wow.
And that's when I started to really understand that my ancestors were talking to me, and they had been talking to me for a really long time. I was just really not wanting to hear them or see them. And once they did, then they started telling me about all the things that I was supposed to be doing. And then people started showing up telling me all the things I'm supposed to be doing. And it really freaked me out because I didn't think I was ready for that responsibility.
Mm.
And so the last 25 years has been this process. This, again, you talk about ascension or ascending and transformation. It's this
Hmm.
transformation process of Are you ready to take the deep dive? Are you ready to look inside of you? Are you ready to ask the hard questions and hear the hard answers? You know, and I think we're all in a position now in consciousness where whether you're realizing it or not, you're being asked that question.
We are being asked this question. We feel that nudge. We kind of get a sense that there's something more, something beyond, something deeper, more meaningful, more fulfilling that we're supposed to be doing with our lives or to be experiencing in our lives, you know? And so we have been embedded with that transformational code of going from remembrance into ascension by way of alignment and activation. And you're right, James. So many of us resist that. They resist the guidance that we're receiving from ancestors, from our soul, from our higher self, from our higher power. And we're trying to control and conform and perform and just meet expectations and obligation and be driven by the fog, that heavy kind of feeling that obscures the vision that I think many of us are coming to see and that we actually share along this path for those of us who feel called and to create that shift from our career or corporate life into our calling. Why do you think that is, James? Why do we block that? Why do we limit ourselves in that way?
Because, well, for one thing, when you were talking about all that, I realized that everything that you were talking about is out here,
Yeah,
outside
yeah.
of it.
Uh-huh.
And what we're talking about is really the inside job. It's the inner work, right?
Right.
And why do we do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people this. I said, when we get to a place where we realize that everything that happened in our life and everything that is happening in their life are because of choices that I've made. And am I ready to take the consequences for those choices? And the reality is that most people aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Most people aren't ready to take that. And so it's way easier to blame a spouse or blame a person or blame a country or
Mm-hmm.
blame somebody else
Mm-hmm.
for where you are and why you haven't been able to do the things that you want to do. And so once we start to take that responsibility and we bring that in and we go, oh, yeah, that's right. I made that choice and this is what happened. And oh my gosh. And so that's a really challenging place for most people.
Yeah. And I wonder sometimes if it comes from a lack of self-trust, you know, really believing in our capacity to make the right choices for our life. And some of us are scared to take on responsibility because we might mess it up somehow, you know, that still that perfectionism performance really plays in our subconscious mind and drives our nervous system and the way that we respond to the world. We react more
The
than
thing
embody.
is where did we learn that fear though? See, because
Mm,
that's a learned behavior.
right.
So this is the place where neuroscience comes in, right? Because
Okay.
these are patterns and behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
We inherently don't come in feeling not good about ourselves. We
Mm-hmm.
actually get taught that. And we
Mm-hmm.
get taught that there are expectations that other people put on us. And when those expectations from those other people get put on us, then are constantly conforming to whoever we're in front of in that moment. And so when we are faced with coming to terms with who we are and that play and a place of going, okay, can I do what I want to do for me? And I'm not talking about being selfish. I'm talking about looking at this and how do I become an empowered being,
Mm-hmm.
realizing that I have choice and that realizing that the life that I want is there
Mm-hmm.
if I am ready to take that responsibility. Again, I'm talking about responsibility, and yet at the same time, it really is about going, how do I want my life to look? And
Mm.
not what other people have been telling me that I should be. And we spend a lot of time there. And that's kind of where this place is almost like this thing that goes like this inside of our head. Should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't
Yeah.
I?
Yeah, we keep shooting at ourselves, right? And carrying burdens when all we really need to do is take on that responsibility, being able to better respond to our life and what we're feeling called to and who we're becoming and who we've always been naturally, you know, coming more into touch with that, really embodying life and a fuller expression of who we truly are.
I
And I know
think,
we, yeah,
go ahead,
you
go
had a
ahead. No, I'm
thought?
sorry. I didn't
No,
mean
no,
to
go
interrupt.
ahead.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
no, not at all.
Um, you bring up a really good point because, and I say this to people,
Mm.
I talk about it this way. What's the difference between the committee and the team?
Oh, okay. What is
So
the
the
difference?
committee are all the negative voices in your head. They're the
Mm.
ones that tell you that you can't do and do what you can and cannot do.
Right.
That's the committee.
Uh-huh.
The team is when you're in alignment.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And this is one way for people, if people want to, in some ways, understand the difference, because your mind is going to tell you things constantly about what's
Mm-hmm.
going on, what you should be doing, what's wrong, what's not wrong, all of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you get to the place where you actually start listening to your intuition, it actually feels differently in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it this way. When my mind is in control, when my fear is elevated, if you can check inside of your body, what you're going to notice is that your energy is contracted. You actually feel small. You actually feel yourself
Mm.
shrinking, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When information comes and it's really from source or it's from your dial-up or you listening to your intuition will never tell you what's wrong, it never
Right.
steer you wrong. It's
Mm-hmm.
how we listen and what we're hearing. Because
Mm.
when those important messages, let's just put it that, when those important messages come, it's a heart opening.
Ah.
You
Mm-hmm.
feel the difference. And that's really a key inside of this is going inside when something's happening and you're about to make a decision or a choice, right? And there's places where you're not sure if you should step in or not. Check in with your heart.
Mm.
They say that all the time, but really it's
Mm-hmm.
true. Because when you're in an aligned place, that heart chakra and that heart opening goes like this. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're not, you literally feel it close down.
That is such an important distinction. And the way that we can practice discernment in those choices that we make and in anything that we set out to do, is it aligned action? How does that feel in our body, in our heart? That opening, that expansion, that's the freedom so many of us long for. That's where it comes from.
There's so many pieces to it, but there's this other
Sure.
piece.
Mm-hmm.
We are so much in our head and we're so much in the world and we're so much outside of us
Mm-hmm.
that pretty much to a person, I would say this, when people come to work with me, one of the first things I do, and this, I know this sounds really weird, is put people back in their bodies.
Uh-huh.
Being able to be grounded and centered inside your body so that you're paying attention to how the energy is running and how the emotion feels inside. That
Mm-hmm.
is like starting point one.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, everything happens because now you're tracking what's going on and you're tracking that from that place of, and I tell people this, there's really only three places that I see that we are inside of ourselves. We're either expanded energy, contracted energy, or we're neutral. And sometimes neutral is not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I made it really simple. I had to make it simple because I had to make it simple for
Yeah.
myself. But at the same time, I
Yeah.
made it simple for the people that I work with so that they could actually start to see what's going on over and over.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's such an important point. And even those on the spiritual path need to also anchor in that energy, right? To come back into their body. Because many on the spiritual path who, feel awakened or enlightened or wanting to be up there and to their higher self, we want to be able to
Right.
anchor that energy because being fully present on this earth is what's most needed at this time. But a lot of those on the spiritual path feel like the energy on earth is so dense, it's hostile, it's turbulent, as we talked about earlier. It's constantly changing and it's hard to be in it, yet we can find the strength and capacity to do that. And I know that a lot of what you do in your work, James, is through that. And through Hooponopono, when we talk about emotions and conflict and the forgiveness practice and shifting in that blame that you had mentioned earlier and coming back into who's really responsible for our lives and how we're feeling, what we're experiencing, what we decide to do and be in this lifetime. But you're saying that it's not actually a forgiveness practice like many of us have come to know. So, what is it really? What is that deeper meaning and understanding that's been passed down to you by your kapuna, your ancestors?
I just want to finish our thought that we were talking
Sure.
about.
You
Okay,
bet.
so I'm
Yeah.
talking about the density of everything, and yes, you're
Okay.
right, and that part of that is a survival trauma response where we pull ourselves
Ah,
out of dangerous situations. So
uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
we, in some ways, we're hardwired for that,
Mm,
and yet we're here. So people that are on the path and they're looking at their lives and they're wanting to make changes and all of that that goes with that, right? As we're doing that, we're going to hit those dense patches, and we're here because we there has to be some counter to the density,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's the energy that we hold. That's the energy that we hold. And so if
Mm,
we pulled ourselves away and we allowed the density to just be there without even having some counter energy, some energy that is not against it, but a
mm,
counter energy to that, how will people know what that feels like?
mm.
Unless we are there to give them the example of that and to share that with them.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yes.
does that make sense when I talk about it in that way? And so yeah, it's easy. We are so light beings that it's so easy for us to just go poof and and go away. We do
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yet our work now is to hold that space here.
Yes.
And
Yes.
part part of that is cool. We can come back into Hawaiian tradition now. So we talk
Mm-hmm.
about Hawaiian tradition.
Mm.
And part of that is the process of being pono. Ho'oponopono is a really big word.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And the Hawaiian language is very phonetic. So if you took all the pieces and you pronounced phonetically in syllables, it makes it really easy. So ho'o, because there's two O's there. So
Mm-hmm.
you pronounce both O's. Ho'oponopono, ponopono. Pono is the word. Ho'o is kind of like a prefix that says of or the. And so pono is really the concept that we're talking about. And in Hawaiian culture, it was one of the cornerstones of our I guess you could say, of our culture and the way that we operated, right? The way we moved through the world.
Mm.
And pono is about being in harmony. Pono is about righteousness. Pono is about alignment. Pono is about integrity. And so when we look at Ho'oponopono, really what we're talking about is, am I in alignment inside of my life? Am I in alignment inside of the way that I operate in the world? Am I in alignment with the people that I interact with on on a daily basis?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at for Ho'oponopono in the Hawaiian dictionary, all you're going to find is two words, and the two words is "to correct." So there's nothing about
Hmm.
forgiveness inside of that. It's about correcting how how we see ourselves, how
Mm-hmm.
we view the world, and how we are in alignment or not in alignment with it.
Hmm. That's a beautiful way to create a framework around it. And so how do we integrate that understanding into our lives?
Well, I think first of all, it's first. I want to do a really quick this understanding of the process as it was used in our culture.
Okay.
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 And then we can start to talk about, because there are two different aspects of this. And I'm actually writing a book right now.
Hmm.
It's my beta readers are reading that right now, and then it's going to go come back for some changes, and then it's going to go to the editor. So I'm hoping that the book is going to be out. Well, not hoping. The book should is on track for late spring next year.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and in the book,
Okay.
I talk about two different aspects. I talk about the cultural aspect of Ho'oponopono, and then the second half of the book, I titled Ho'oponopono in Everyday Life. So, what good is it understanding what the process is if I can't incorporate it into my life to
Mm.
create change for myself, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, in traditional Ho'oponopono, so you have to understand society, Hawaiian society. And in Hawaiian society, they sailed for thousands of miles and they found this paradise. They literally did. This is over 1,000 years ago. And they came to this place because they wanted a new life. And for several generations, they lived in a way where they thought that everything was limitless. And then they realized, oh, wait a minute, we have to be more in alignment with the land. We have to be more in alignment with the ocean because our resources are limited.
Mm-hmm.
And we are isolated because there are thousands of miles of ocean between Hawaii and the next landmass.
Hmm.
And so they really had to learn how to live in community. They had to learn how to live in relationship to the other. They had to learn how to live in harmony with their community and also with nature.
Hmm.
And so there was this deep, deep connection to that. And in any community, it doesn't matter if it's a community of five or it's a community of 500 or 500,000, there is going to be places where there are going to be conflicts inside of a way of thinking, conflicts in what people think right or wrong is. And so Ho'oponopono, as a result, was how to resolve conflict when you have
Hmm.
inside of community, between people, between groups. And so the process, the ancient practice of Ho'oponopono was about resolving conflict. And they had a very unique way of doing that. And so when people realized that they could not find an agreement and come to agreeable settle of whatever was going on, they would realize that they needed Ho'oponopono. So they would go into the community and they would either go to a kahu, which is a priest, or they would go to a respected kupuna, which is elder. So kupuna has different meanings. Kupuna
Hmm.
ancestor, kupuna elder.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So they would choose a respected elder in the community, or they would go to their kahu, which is the spiritual, basically the priest, and would say, "We cannot find resolution here. Will you help us?" And so we would come into this agreement, and really, if you to look at Ho'oponopono in a different way, because the act of Ho'oponopono is actually a ceremony.
Hmm.
It's a sacred ceremony where
Yeah.
people come together. And so
Hmm.
before even the ceremony started, there would be introspection, there would be meditation, there would be cleansing on the physical and the emotional and the spiritual levels. And then everybody would come together. And the kahu basically, or the kupuna, becomes the mediator. So somebody sits in the center to create order, to hold order.
Yeah.
Because whoever's got, I know that all of you have gotten into an argument before with someone where all you do is try and yell louder over the other person. And tell me that worked.
Yeah.
Not so much,
Not so
right?
much. Hmm.
And so there were what I call rules of engagement inside of
Hmm.
this.
Hmm.
First, there was prayer and ceremony and
Hmm.
calling everybody in and everybody agreeing that this is what they want to do. Because once the ceremony starts, and the ceremony sometimes could take months, people had made that commitment to be inside of that. And then there were rules. The rules were that everybody got to speak. And this is something that we don't get a lot of nowadays in our culture. Everybody gets to speak. Everybody gets to be quiet.
Hmm.
And so everybody, whoever is inside that circle, whoever this conflict is with, every person gets a chance to speak without being interrupted. How else will we know where other people are if we don't take the time to listen to them? And the question is, am I listening or am I stuck inside my emotions and I'm thinking about an answer and I'm still in my emotions and I'm not even being able to listen to you because I'm still thinking that I got hurt somehow.
Hmm.
So you look at this and you look at that process and you look at our society and where we are and realize, man, we stopped listening to each other a really long time ago.
Hmm.
So no wonder there's no resolution. No wonder we're still at odds with each other. No wonder countries and are in conflict with each
Hmm.
other.
Hmm.
Nobody's listening. And the internet was really amazing for this. Everybody's got a point of view now. And everybody can put their point of view out on the internet as many times as they want to. And if you
Yeah.
don't believe or believe in my point of view, then I'm not going to be your friend. I'm not going to listen to you, right? And
Hmm.
that's the divisiveness that we've come to. So,
Hmm.
again, back to the ceremony. So everybody would have a chance to come back into the ceremony and to have their say. And this is where you get to practice the deep listening and looking inside to see what your part does inside of the process. And then at the end of everybody basically airing their views, the mediator, the kahu would ask and say, okay, are you ready to come to resolution? And if people were, they would be great. Let's talk about what we're going to do. How are we going to resolve this conflict? You know, if not, then he would say, okay, go back and meditate. Go sit with yourself. This is, you don't talk to anybody else outside this circle about what's going on. This is sacred. This is between us, you and this person, whoever it is. So this would be, and literally it's between you and you. So you get to go look at that and you get to go, well, when we had that argument, they said this, and I really wanted to hurt them, so I said this. Wow, was that the right thing to do?
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of introspection where you start looking at that and you go, wow, I knew that I was doing the wrong thing in the beginning, but I did it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep blaming people for that, right? And again, this is where we come back into pono. Am I in alignment with myself?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you and I talked about this at the very beginning. Remember, I said when you start taking responsibility for everything that's happening in your life,
Yeah.
that's when your life changes.
Yes. Yes. And you also spoke about, James, that inner work, right? And so feeling into what you're saying about, introspecting and the conflict and listening to each other and thinking about what we're going to say and in our minds, our nervous system's already dysregulated. There's that inner conflict going on already inside of us, right? Not being fully in our bodies, being in our head, being in our emotions. That's all in conflict to how we actually want to be in the world and how we want to be relating with each other and listening even to our heart and to ourselves and to our ancestors, like we spoke about earlier. And yeah, there's so much that's there, and that we can go deeper.
We can go deeper. And so people will sit inside of that and then come back and talk, or maybe they need clarity, maybe they need to hear, maybe they didn't hear what that person said the first time. And so the more you're inside of that process, the more you get to let go, and the more you get to stand back, the more you get to look, the more
Mm-hmm.
you get to take responsibility for. So
Mm-hmm.
part of Ho'oponopono is taking responsibility for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Part of
And
Ho'oponopono too, and I don't think I've ever said it this way,
huh,
is can I see myself and be okay with who I am?
oh, wow. What a powerful question. Can I see
Right? So
myself and be okay with who I am?
that's part of the alignment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of us don't like who we are. I mean, and again, we were taught that.
Mm-hmm.
So the process goes on until they find, so is it compensation? Is it forgiveness? Only then does forgiveness show up, but forgiveness is
Hmm.
only one of the pieces
Yeah.
inside of the whole process, right? Responsibility, an apology, maybe forgiveness, maybe compensation, whatever it is. The process as it was used is not resolved to everybody agrees
Mm-hmm.
that to the solution that they come up with. So much so that the understanding is that when that whole Ho'oponopono process is done and people walk away, whatever happened was never to be spoken of again.
Mm-hmm.
And how many of us carry stuff around that's like not just last
Plays
week or last
over
year,
and
but
over and over. Yeah.
exactly, which means that you're not in resolution. You haven't come
Mm-hmm.
to the end of the conflict. You're still in conflict. And so the bigger piece inside of that is that, and everything always is going to come back to this place. Only then will that process be said to be finished and complete. And the kahu then the mediator releases everybody back into life. And so and again, prayer inside of that. And because in Hawaii it was such an important piece, it would be a shared meal at the end. And so you
Hmm.
would not share a meal with somebody that you're in conflict with,
Huh.
right? So this whole amazing process of that. And so to look at that and go, oh, this is just a practice of forgiveness. No, it's not. Oh my God, it's so much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So much
Mm-hmm.
more. And there's implications inside of this in all aspects of our life. Like for me,
Mm.
this one of the things that I really, really want to do with this process is I want to take it to like HR managers and companies
Oh,
and
yeah.
and and
Yes.
and, and have because there's always conflict. There's
Yeah.
conflict between management and employees. There's conflict within departments. There's conflict inside of teams.
Hmm.
And how efficient are the teams running? How efficient are these companies running? How efficient is your family?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not being efficient. It's how are you communicating inside of your family? There's so many places inside of this. In Hawaii, there's some aspect of Ho'oponopono that's actually being used in the judicial system, especially for juveniles.
Mm.
Having been able to look at that, take responsibility, change how they see things, change how they feel about themselves.
Absolutely. So, so
There's
important right now.
there's
Yeah.
so many ways that this can and that's my dream, that's my desire is to be able to
Mm.
share Ho'oponopono in that way, to be able to bring it to all of these different places inside of our lives.
It's so beautiful. And I actually want to pose a question to the audience here, James, is that where in your life, this is to the audience, to all of you who are tuning into Awaken and Ascend right now, where in your life are you needing resolution? What feels incomplete or unresolved? What needs to be released? Part of forgiveness is releasing yourself from the emotional attachment to the person or situation. And so those emotions are telling you something that's still stirred up and activated within you that may need some resolution before you can fully move on, move forward in your life to no longer hold you back. And so maybe reflect on that. Share it in the comments, even if you choose to. And we're always here to support you in that as well. And James, I love this idea of bringing it out into the corporate world, into our families, and to reflect on that for ourselves and to really embody leadership in this way for self leadership and how we move forward and guide and bring forth more of this alignment, this community, this shared vision that we have for humanity to co-create this global harmony, to be in congruence with truth, not tension. And I love the work that you're sharing and doing, and there's so much more to it. And so I want to have an opportunity for people to explore that if they want to. We'll put those links in the bottom. But James, what is the
Absolutely.
best way for people to connect with you?
The best way to connect is just to reach out to me. I offer free 30-minute consultations to anybody. So, and if you found out and you haven't learned yet, I love to talk and I also love to listen.
Yeah.
And so sometimes people just need an ear or another perspective. And so if you reach out to me at James Kawainui, and I'll spell Kawainui, KAWAINUI.com. If you reach out and just send me an email and said, "Hey James, I want to just spend some time with you," and I'd be absolutely happy to set up a time that we can talk. You can also find my website, which is jameskawainui.com. I'm on LinkedIn and I just got on TikTok. Yeah, I'm a little slow, but I got there. And I'm starting to put some videos on there. And
Yeah.
so there's lots of different ways. If you just Google James Kawainui, yeah, you'll see different ways for me to reach out to me.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, we'll make sure all of those links are down below in the video description. You'll find ways to contact me as well and some beautiful gifts for you for tuning in. And that may help as a resource for you and provide some support, some inspiration along your journey of self-actualization as well. So all of that will be in the video description as well. James, it's been such a pleasure having you on here to be able to connect. And you're so right. We want to be seen and heard, and yet we emotionally fear it at the same time. And I think what I've come to learn is a big part of that, at least for me, is that we also want to feel understood. And so often,
Absolutely.
even when we try to express ourselves, there's that resistance of feeling that we're misunderstood, that we're not coming across the way that we want to or the way that we need to feel like we actually been seen and heard when we feel understood. And so
We,
thank
we,
you for
we
bringing about more understanding of why that might be.
we didn't come here to be alone.
Yeah.
And yet, the more our society grows, the more alone we are. And
Mm,
so this is an opportunity to come back together in a more empowered way. And so
yeah.
that's what I would invite people to do is to realize that, yeah, we all want to be understood. We all want to be heard. We all want to be accepted. And I will say this, that goes both ways.
Mhm.
As much as you want that from someone else, you have to be able to offer that to someone else as well.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm so grateful that we are learning to create deeper roots, not just to keep branching out and diffusing our energy and leaking our energy, but actually to ground ourselves, as you say, fully inhabit our body, go into deeper alignment with who we are and who we came here to be, what we came here to do, and own up to that sacred responsibility, be accountable to our mission, of what we're here for. I mean, we did choose. We did have that choice way in the beginning before we even landed here on Earth to to
Yes,
be
we did.
here at this time, and yeah. And so it's been an interesting journey, and we love to hear from you. Did you like this video? Do you want to share it? Maybe there's something in it that you think someone else might need to hear and experience. So be sure to do that. James, is there anything else that you would like to share with us today?
One thing that I would say as you go down this road of transformation and you go down this road of self-inquiry,
Hmm.
my suggestion would be to watch how fast and how much judgment you put into everything that you're doing. And
Hmm.
if all you could do was recognize the judgment in your life and the judgment that we have against ourselves, and you could change that, then your life is going to change.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Thank you so much, James, for being here with us today. Your presence has been so beautiful, helping us into that remembrance. And for all of you that have been tuning into Awaken and Ascend, do come back, subscribe. We'd love to see you back here and feel into your energy too. Thanks so much for being here, you all. Bye for now.
Aloha.